Good evening, everyone. I'll call this meeting to order at 6:30 p.m. by recognizing the traditional keepers of this land and specifically our neighbors of the Alderville First Nation with a formal territorial acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that the municipality of Brighton is located on the Mississauga-Anishinaabe territory and is the traditional territory of the Mississauga. The Council of the Municipality of Brighton respectfully acknowledges that the Mississauga Nations are the collective stewards and caretakers of these lands and waters in perpetuity, and that they continue to maintain this responsibility to ensure their health and integrity for generations to come. I will also advise that due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, this meeting will be held using various formats. Some members of council and staff are present here in the chambers. Other staff members and members of council are joining us via electronic conference technology. The public is invited to join us by viewing this meeting live on the Municipality of Brighton YouTube channel. I will also note that once we proceed into closed session, the live YouTube stream will end for the duration of tonight's council meeting. And that brings us to the approval of the agenda with a motion moved by Councillor Tadman, seconded by Councillor Anderson, that council approve the February 7th, 2022 council agenda as presented. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? Any opposed? The motion's carried. And because there is a slight delay, I will call the motions a little, or the votes a little more slowly to allow Councillor Bateman an opportunity to chime in with his votes, so we're not mistaking his yay votes for nay votes. I'm noticing there's a bit of a delay, which brings me to a welcome back to Councillor Bateman.
Thank you, Mayor.
Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? And if so, please state the general nature thereof. There are none noted. Are there any announcements this evening? Councillor Rowley.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't know if you were going to speak to our the invitation that council received that we attended at Premier Tech last week. It was good news story for Brighton regarding monies being pumped in and hopefully new jobs coming to the Premier Tech business over there. So I would just bring that up. I don't know if you wanted to add to that. That's all.
Well, all good news, of course, thanks to the Provincial Economic Development Drive, Quinte Economic Development, who helped make it happen, and our local economic development team, who sort of brought it all together. Premier Tech, for those of you who don't know, is a major property owner and manufacturer in our industrial park. And their continued investment in our community is both appreciated and needed. And the investment from both the provincial government and Premier Tech will result in an additional, I think the number's 52 jobs for Brighton. And that's some good news for our community. Any other announcements this evening? Councillor Bateman.
Thank you, Mayor. Not really an announcement, but I don't want to let this go by without first and foremost thanking all of you sitting around there for your support through all this, because it's easily the most scariest thing I've ever been through. I'd also like, and I know she's now watching because I couldn't pay her to watch a council meeting for some reason. I have to thank my wife, because when I had the heart attack, between my wife and Northumberland paramedics, I have to thank them. We're very fortunate where we live because the paramedics were here really quickly from what I'm told. But I also want to acknowledge that we're very fortunate. I was very fortunate, but I think we all are where we live. Quinte Healthcare, the 3 hospitals that I was involved with, TMH and Belleville General, were exceptional. And I can't speak highly enough about the cardiac unit at Kingston General Hospital. And all 3 hospitals this council supported in the last budget. So thank you all for your support, and for the paramedics in the hospitals, and for the community that has reached out to me. We live in a pretty special spot, and I think sometimes we may forget it because when we're in council, we might not always agree with each other when we're working through motions and stuff, but I think that's one thing we can agree on. We live in a pretty special spot. So thank everybody that reached out to me and that has helped me. It's greatly appreciated.
Thank you, Councillor Bateman. That's probably the best announcement we'll hear this year. I think that's good news. Are there any other announcements before I move on? Takes us to adoption of the minutes, moved by Councillor Anderson, seconded by Councillor Tadman, that council adopt the January 17th, 2022 council meeting minutes as presented. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? The motion's carried. That takes us to the January 19th, moved by Deputy Mayor Connect, seconded by Councillor LeBlanc, the council adopt the January 19th, 2022 planning meeting minutes as presented. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? Are there any opposed? The motion's carried. And a motion by Deputy Mayor Connect, seconded by Councillor Blanc, the council adopt the January 31st, 2022 special meeting minutes as presented. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? Are there any opposed? The motion's carried. Madam Clerk, are you aware of anyone joining us for citizens' comment this evening? Jessica, are you aware of anyone coming on board? Thank you. I should note there is no statutory public meeting and no delegations this evening either. Taking us straight into staff reports. Our first staff report is with regard to the 50th anniversary of the Tornado Task Force Terms of Reference. Was this prepared by you, Madam Clerk? There it is, economic development. Mr. Hagerman, we've read your report. Do you have anything to add or highlight?
Just gonna, through you, the mayor, mention that, we performed the exercise of putting the terms of reference together for the, as it was stated in the notice of motion. We talked at the staff level a little bit, and would also included that there's a recommendation in there that that this would be a great project for the Brighton Digital Archives, considering its importance in history and the access to the archives photos that they may have, to put something together to really commemorate this this difficult day. I'm sure that it was. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hagerman. So the motion before me is a bit awkward because it includes all of the information. Councillor Rowley, you've signed the motion form. I'll read the whole thing and then maybe we can have a discussion about what we want it to read. So it's moved by Councillor Rowley, seconded by Councillor LeBlanc, that council receives staff report regarding the terms of reference for the 50th anniversary of the Tornado Task Force, and that council received the terms of reference for the 50th anniversary of the task force. And further, that staff make a suggestion this could be an excellent project for the Brighton Digital Archives to lead, given its significance to Brighton's history. So that last line really doesn't belong unless we want the task force to essentially be turned over to the archives group. And that's, I don't think, the intention, but I wonder if you could speak to it.
No, that was not my initial intention, although I think having the digital archives group involved in this would be certainly a bonus for this project, that's for sure. Reading, if I could ask Ben, or through you, I guess, as far as the terms of reference goes, there's quite a list, Ben, as far as folks that you want on the committee, or did you want to just kind of eliminate that by giving it all to the digital archives? Is that your intention of this these comments?
Mr. Hagerman?
Through you, the mayor, really no intent on what I would like to see personally. More so delivering the terms of reference as council requested, and coming forward with a recommendation that this is in line with everything that Brighton Digital Archives is all about, and just through staff making a recommendation that this would be a great project for them to carry forward. Maybe it's something as simple as they develop a subcommittee and include some of the folks that I listed on the terms of reference, but those terms of reference can be amended as well if you feel that the list is too long. But that's kind of where I was coming from.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Thanks. Through you, I have just two questions. One is, has anyone spoken to the Digital Archives group, and are they interested in this? And the second one is, I think we give it to the Digital Archives or we create a task force. I don't think we can do both, can we?
I would suggest not, but they are, if we pass the terms of reference, so if we were to remove the last line from the motion, just pass the terms of reference, Digital Archives are included in the list of people who would be represented at the table. And they may want to take on their own portion of that through photographic memories and so on and so forth. Yeah. Councillor Tadman.
I'm agreeing with you, Deputy Mayor. I don't think that, first of all, you talk to the group to see if they have the time and interest to do something like that, because they are very busy. But the other thing, this seems to me to be a community events great thing to do, or is that too much work for you?
I think community events, certainly Councillor Bateman and I both sit on that committee. We could probably, our committee is lacking for membership right now. We are also going to add, if council desires tonight, recognition of the Queen's Jubilee this year. So it would be an extra project, that's for sure. But as far as having representation there, you know, some of us could wear two hats, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And again, the terms of reference do have a community events person or representative at the table for the task force. Back to the Deputy Mayor's question, has anyone approached the Digital Archives? Mr. Hagerman, I'd ask you.
No, haven't got to that stage yet. Just part of our recommendation with the report.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Tadman, did you have another
I
comment?
was just, I shook my head because I was at a meeting last week and didn't hear anything.
Right. Thank you. So is it your wish as the mover to accept the terms of reference as we read them here and remove that last line from the motion?
That would be my preference, yes.
Yeah, Councillor LeBlanc is a seconder.
And I would go with the recommendation of the council and the mayor.
So the motion reads that council received the staff report regarding terms of reference for the 50th anniversary of the Tornado Task Force, and the council received the terms of reference for that council received the terms of reference for the 50th anniversary of the Tornado Task Force. Should that read accept? So that we can move forward. Approves. You okay with that, Councillor Rowley, Councillor LeBlanc? Okay, so now reads, the second line now reads that council approves the terms of reference. Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Go ahead.
Sorry. When would we be putting this task force together?
Well, we'd have to advertise because there are two community residents that would be sitting on it.
Okay.
So I think that that would be the first step. And then once we have, and then we'd have to appoint a member of council. We'd have to advise the various committees to appoint a representative. So it's going to be a couple months.
Right? We have, well, we don't have a
Give or
year.
take.
We have a few months, but we have.
The task force has a year.
The task force has a year,
Yes.
correct.
Yes. But I would say probably April, we'd be looking at April by the time all the pieces fall into place to actually hold a meeting.
Correct.
Yeah.
May I ask one more question then? Because we have now approved this and I,
Well, we haven't because I didn't, you had a question, so I didn't declare the motion carried.
okay, based on the vote, if it's approved, and the fact that I sit with the DBIA community events, I'm wondering, can we bring that to our individual boards and committees once we pass this to bring them up to speed also?
I think that would be wise.
Okay, thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
That brings me to just a question or a thought. We're talking about having a representative from all these different committees, and we're also talking about having the mayor and a council representative. So those committees couldn't send a council member, or not too many of them could. Otherwise, you're going to end up with a council meeting,
Right.
correct?
I would suggest that the other committees may want to not send a council member.
Okay,
In order to
just-
help avoid that.
yeah. That's what I was wondering.
Yeah. You're right, because two more and we have a council meeting. Yeah, thank you. Anything further on the motion? Try this again. Those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion's carried. Now move into notices of motions and motions. The first is a motion coming forward from the January 17th, 2022 meeting. It's moved by Mayor Ostrander, seconded by Councillor LeBlanc. Right, that's staff. You don't want me to read the whole motion? Yeah, well, the whole motion. But I can just read this, that's fine. That staff in the Community Events and Civic Awards Committee is directed to prepare celebrations to commemorate the Platinum Jubilee. Is there any discussion? Councillor Rowley.
As community events will be meeting tomorrow night, will there be some budget dollars for this? We've already basically passed our budget based on annual events, which we hope we can do this year, depending on how protocols go from the province. However, could we sit down with maybe yourself, Mayor, and Councillor LeBlanc as to what you see us doing, and then tick a dollar value to that?
I have tomorrow's community events meeting in my calendar. I intend
Okay.
to show up so I can
Okay.
answer some of these questions, but it
Right.
might be wise for the chair and you and I to sit with Director Whitfield and see, depending on what you come up with, what the committee
Right.
comes up with,
Right.
where we might be able to find dollars and cents for this kind of.
Exactly. It's just, we're going to have to buffer our budget then
Yeah.
somehow, just asking that question. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Councillor Tadman?
Just a reminder that in other celebrations, especially of the Queen, very often when they receive recognition like this, they send some kind of token, which would be really nice if they sent something for the public school kids in honor of this. So maybe if we could, I know we won't personally get to her office, but certainly whoever looks after her correspondence. Because I remember other times, I think you probably have too, where
Yeah.
when something like that happens in our municipality, when we let, Her Majesty know, then something nice usually comes back.
I'll certainly reach out to the Member of Parliament, find out what those channels of communication. look like.
Right, because
Yeah.
they probably get so many, because usually there's pins and things
Right.
given out.
Pardon me? I do not have Her Majesty in my Rolodex, no.
Oh, just call me, I'll give it to you. I'm not supposed to get everybody though.
I'll bet. Anything further? Those in favor? Being none opposed, that motion's carried. Which takes us into notices of motions. The first will be moved by Councillor LeBlanc and seconded by Councillor Rowley, and will come forward at the February 22nd meeting. And the motion reads, to see if council would direct staff to discuss the possibility of establishing a cat bylaw in the municipality of Brighton. Please find attached a letter of concern from a Brighton citizen, various photos from the municipality of cats, as well as a copy of the City of Quinte West's cat bylaw. The next, also moved by Councillor LeBlanc, will be seconded by Councillor Tadman. The council directs staff to consider a traffic study at the intersections of Ontario Street and Raglan Street East and West to determine if a four-way stop or a roundabout is warranted. Some residents have safety concerns about the volume of traffic on Ontario Street due to construction, increase of housing, and Presqu'île Park. There have been reports made on speeding along Ontario Street. The next notice will be also moved by Councillor LeBlanc and seconded by Councillor Tadman. The council directs staff to consider a study at the intersection of Baldwin Street and Queen Street East and West to determine if a four-way stop would be warranted. The current two-way stop on either side of Queen Street is a safety concern to the residents of Gosport, as there are many reports of speeding, issues with a southern blind spot, as well as a safety concern, as well as safety of school bus pickup and drop off. The next notice of motion will be moved by Councillor LeBlanc and seconded by Councillor Rowley. The council directs staff to bring back a high water bill adjustment policy to assist residents when a water bill is abnormally high due to a property plumbing leak. This one-time relief on an annual basis would greatly assist residents by allowing an adjustment on their bill if a plumbing issue is confirmed by means of a repair receipt or a written request for an adjustment, and once municipal staff can provide confirmation of a leak or repair. Upon staff review, council requests that staff provide a service agreement for council's approval. Please find attached a copy of the high water bill adjustment from the city of Quinte West. And the next notice will be moved by Councillor Rowley and seconded by Councillor LeBlanc, whereas some members of council have noted concerns with municipal management, and whereas the municipality has experienced a substantial number of resignations in the last 15 months, and whereas some members of council have noted that concerns may be impacting service levels to ratepayers. Therefore, be it resolved that council directs staff to obtain 3 quotes from a qualified human resources firm to present to all council for review and selection. And further, the selected HR firm be directed to conduct a management review. And further, that council directs that the HR firm be advised that all members of staff shall be interviewed as part of the management review. And further, that the HR firm ensure that participants' interviews shall remain anonymous. And further, that council directs that HR firm be advised that all members of council shall be interviewed as part of the management review. And further, that council directs the HR firm to also conduct exit interviews with staff that have resigned from the municipality within the last 15 months. And further, that council directs the HR firm be advised that the final report shall be released directly to all council. And further, that the HR firm present their findings along with recommendations for council's review and consideration. And those notices will all come forward to the February 22nd meeting. We have no unfinished business listed on tonight's agenda, which brings us to bylaws. The first bylaw is with regard to the Ontario Trillium Foundation King Edward Park Community Centre roof replacement. And the motion is moved by Councillor Tadman, seconded by Councillor Anderson, that council gives a bylaw its first, second, and third reading and finally passes on this date. Being a bylaw to authorize the treasurer to execute a grant funding agreement between the Corporation of the Municipality of Brighton and the Ontario Trillium Foundation for the King Edward Community Centre roof replacement. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion's carried. Next bylaw is with regard to modernization grant for information technology master plan, moved by Deputy Mayor Knecht, seconded by Councillor Rowley. The council gives a bylaw its first, second, and third reading and finally passes on this date. Being a bylaw to authorize the mayor and treasurer to execute a grant funding agreement between the Corporation of the Municipality of Brighton and Her Majesty the Queen in the right of Ontario as represented by the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing for Information Technology Master Plan. Is there any discussion? Councillor Rowley.
Thank you, Mayor. Is this something that we already have kind of in the works, this master plan? So are we looking for additional dollars, or is this,
No,
this a new one?
we briefly discussed this at budget, and the IT master plan would move forward if we receive the grant.
Okay.
So that's what we're waiting. That's all we're waiting for, is to
Okay.
sign it and get the money.
Thank you.
Anything further from members of council? All those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion's carried. Our next bylaw is with regard to an interim tax levy for 2022. It's moved by Councillor LeBlanc, seconded by Deputy Mayor Knecht, that council gives a bylaw its first, second, and third reading and finally passes on this date. Being a bylaw to provide for an interim tax levy for 2022 and to provide for the payment of taxes and to provide for penalty and interest. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion's carried. That brings us to reports of advisory committees of council, reports, minutes, and council reports. The first up is the Committee of the Whole recommendation to council from the January 24th, 2022 meeting. And the motion before me reads, the motion before me is moved by Councillor Rowley, seconded by Councillor LeBlanc, The council received the recommendation from the Committee of the Whole to approve the 2022 budget as amended with a 2.45% tax increase, and the council directs staff to provide an overview of the recommended 2022 municipal budget at a public meeting February 22nd, 2022 for public comments, and further that staff prepare a bylaw for the approval of the 2022 municipal budget. Is there any discussion? Councillor Rowley.
First, I want to just ask a question of clarification. So if we approve this, then we have set the tax increase for 2022?
No. If we
Okay.
approve this, we have directed staff to move forward with the public meeting as required under legislation and to prepare a bylaw. Once we pass the bylaw, then we have set the tax rate.
Okay, so there is still opportunity between now and then for discussion regarding the budget?
Yes, that discussion will take place at a public meeting
Okay,
first, and then we can always have a discussion during the when the bylaw is read for council's consideration as well.
okay, so we don't need to ask questions tonight then?
Not unless you have questions about a potential public meeting.
No, I do not.
Thank you. Anything further from members of council? Councillor Tadman.
I just want to say that the consensus seems to be that the majority of council was quite satisfied with this increase, and I wasn't. But because I like to work with council, I will be voting for it at this time. And I do have concerns with some things that are in the budget.
Thank you. Anything further? Councillor LeBlanc?
I agree with Councillor Tadman that since it's the will of the council, I had concerns, but I will be voting for this budget also.
Thank you for that. Anything further from members of council? Councillor Bateman.
For you, Mayor, or for whoever can answer, just a procedural thing. When I was reviewing the agenda, I didn't know how to approach this section. Having not been able to participate in the operational budget side of things, would it be proper for me to vote either way on this or abstain from voting? And I trust everybody around the table asked all the questions that needed to be asked and did what needed to be done, but having not been there to ask any of them, I would feel bad saying no or yes, having not participated.
Sure. So I can't offer you advice on whether to abstain or not from a vote, but I will tell you that as an elected member of council, you have the right to vote one way or the other.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Or abstain. That's also expressing your vote, right? So anything further from members of council? All those in favor? Are there any opposed? The motion is carried. And the Committee of the Whole meeting minutes for November 4th, 22nd, 29th, 2021, and January 10th, 24th, and 22, moved by Councillor Tadman, seconded by Councillor Anderson. The council adopt the Committee of the Whole meeting minutes for the following as presented: November 4th, 22nd, and 29th of 2021, and January 10th and 24th of 2022. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion's carried. That brings us to our Economic Development Advisory Committee minutes of November 4th, moved by Councillor Anderson, seconded by Councillor Tadman. The council received the November 4th, 2021 Economic Development Advisory Committee meeting minutes as presented. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion's carried. Brighton Digital Archives Committee meeting minutes, moved by Councillor Tadman, seconded by Councillor Anderson. The council receive the November 23rd, 2021 Brighton Digital Archives Committee minutes as presented. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion's carried. Taking us to reports and minutes of statutory committees, boards, and external agencies. The only one before us this evening is the Brighton Public Library Board. The motion is moved by Councillor Rowley, seconded by Councillor LeBlanc. The council received the November 24th, 2021 Brighton Public Library Board meeting minutes as presented. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion's carried. And a motion, so report, and then we go to correspondence, direction items, endorsements, communications, and petitions. The only correspondence this evening is Docks by the Bay correspondence regarding an update on funding request. And it's moved by Councillor LeBlanc and seconded by Councillor Rowley that council receive the Docks by the Bay update concerning funding request for the 2022 Municipality of Brighton budget. Is there any discussion? Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. If we just receive this, will we be adding this to our budget, or do we need to approve it or have a discussion around it to approve?
The other option is to support it. But even in the letter, it notes that they're waiting on statistical data to provide us with the accurate number for potential agreement. And the intent, Councillor Anderson and I met with TMHF and Docks by the Bay. The intent is for them to roll the new numbers with the formula that you see before us into an agreement and ask council to sign a 3-year agreement based on those numbers.
So if we just receive tonight, later on, we'll receive further correspondence and be able to discuss and agree or not agree and move forward. Is that kind of the idea?
Right. I think what will happen in the future is they will bring forward an agreement and staff would then ask council to consider that agreement.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Councillor Anderson.
I just wonder about the timing of that, getting that information, getting the final number for council to, how will that play out in with the public meeting with the budget and all that?
I suspect that we will have passed our budget before we get the agreement in place because Docks by the Bay is waiting on Stats Canada
Yes.
for the 2021 census data, and that is unlikely to roll out until April. So
Don't worry.
we're not going to hold the budget open.
No, it's not going to be that large a guess, if you want to
We'll have to
estimate.
have a conversation with the treasurer about where to find the additional funds if we go down that road.
Yeah.
Deputy Mayor.
So currently we have 25,000 in the budget, correct?
Correct.
So anything more than that, we're going to have to find somewhere else.
Correct.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Councillor Rowley.
Thank you, Mayor. So I guess my question runs around the dollar per capita. I'm wondering if that will affect what Quinte West and Belleville will do as well, because in some cases it would put them over their 50,000 for requests then, right? So are they looking to, I would hope that we are all treated fairly, that, but if it goes over the, or averages the dollar, I wonder if that will affect Quinte West and Belleville, that they kind of pull back a little bit. Do you have any answers to that?
First of all, I can say it's only Quinte West. Belleville is not a member of Docks by the Bay. And it's my understanding that the formula you see before us is the formula that will be applied to both member municipalities. That's my understanding. Councillor LeBlanc.
So by receiving this, the mayor, so in the budget, we already have 25,000 committed.
Correct.
So the only thing we're waiting is for another 13,000, which is the census. If our population is 13,000,
Right.
Has grown from 11 to 13.
That's right.
Okay.
That's what we're waiting for. We're just waiting for the stats so that Docks by the Bay can provide us with an invoice essentially. And then
Because I certainly support it because we need doctors.
100%.
Those are one of the things that just if they're going to bring up more information, we might be at 14,000. An extra 1,000 could make a difference.
Yeah.
Okay,
Absolutely.
thank you.
Thank you. Anything further? Councillor Tadman?
I think the thing, Mayor, and I'm sure councillors that were on at other times, we spent a lot of money on our own to try and get doctors. So this isn't extravagant, what we're paying out now. It's just that obviously we want it to be fair. And the last, when we talked about it, we didn't think it was fair. Now, this way it's fair. Yeah.
I think we're in agreement here. Anything further? Councillor LeBlanc?
To add to Councillor Tadman, if we feel this agreement is fair, if I change my motion from receive to approve, that would be approved tonight.
I don't think it makes a difference
Don't think it
because
makes a difference?
no, because we're gonna, Docks by the Bay will provide our staff with an agreement That agreement will have to come forward. Council will have to approve it anyway.
Okay.
Whether we support or receive this particular correspondence, really, this is just informational to let council know that a formulaic agreement will come forward.
Okay.
That,
Thank you.
that they heard us,
Thank you.
essentially, right? Deputy Mayor.
I hear what you're saying. I'm just reading the letter, and they say that we hope that you will find this new formula to be an equitable approach. So, but they don't need a decision from us, correct? I just want to make sure that.
No,
we're
but
not-
I'm hearing, maybe we should support it because I'm hearing support around the table. And it would be good if I could, or Councillor Anderson could get back to them and say,
we
we're
supported
supportive
it.
of the formula.
That's
We're
what I was
we're just
thinking.
waiting for you to give us the
I
agreement.
think that's exactly all we need to do, I think.
Councillor Rowley.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm also supportive, but it will affect our budget. Will we kind of like put some dollars aside that we add in later, or should we add those dollars once we get back to deliberating the budget? We know we're going to have to find at least 13,000, correct?
So Director Whitfield, I wonder if you wouldn't mind chiming in and just advising council how best we could proceed, assuming we don't reopen the budget at this stage. I don't think she can unmute herself because she's on the phone. Just one moment, Director. We're going to oh no. No, we can't unmute her either. Councillor Tadman.
I don't think there's any hurry. We can receive this tonight and wait until the final, because we don't know the final numbers, and there's always ways of finding a little
Right.
extra money in the budget when the
And-
budget's passed.
And I know they'll be watching tonight anyway, so they'll have heard the discussion around the table. They'll know we're generally supportive of the concept of how this will be funded.
Yeah, I think we're all, yeah, it's just the final figure.
Right.
So
That's what we're waiting for.
receive it tonight and sign the contract when it comes.
Director Whitfield.
Oh, through you, Mayor. Thank you. I would like to just advise council that we did have a little bit of money that was set aside for requests that might come forward. I think that was around $12,549. That could be a spot where you use that money for. You could also take some money out of your contingency reserve, bearing in mind, no matter what you do, it's going to be an increase in 2023. Because, you don't have that tax rate applied to the additional monies this year.
Thank you for that, Director. So right now it reads receive. Councillor LeBlanc, this is your motion.
So through you, Chair, the reason I went received is because they said they were going to come up with additional information. With the information that's come forward from the Deputy Mayor, from yourself, Councillor, and the other councillors, I would like to change my motion to support.
Thank you for that. Councillor Rowley, are you supportive of supporting it? Thank you. So I've changed it from receive to support. Is there any further discussion? All in favor? There being none opposed, that motion is carried. Takes us to the consent agenda. So I'll ask members of council if there's anything in the consent agenda that you would like debated separately. And I have already asked the clerk to pull the Go Bus expansion study out so that, because I believe that we would be wise to support the study and Go Bus expansion. Right now, the motion moved by Deputy Mayor Connect and seconded by Councillor Rowley is to receive, and it reads that council receive the County Northumberland report and resolution regarding Go Bus expansion case and economic impact study. But Deputy Mayor, I would like us to support that. Are you in favor of that?
I'm in favor of that.
Thank you, Councillor Rowley.
Yeah.
You can, go ahead.
So just let me I'll come back.
Any discussion on the motion?
Okay.
Councillor Bateman.
Just so I understand, you're still going to do the Northumberland County updates next, Mayor? Did we just put these all together?
No, we're going to do the update next.
Okay, thank you.
It will be the only item on our consent agenda, so we can talk about it. Councillor Rowley.
Okay, so my question is, how does this affect and what responsibility will the municipality have as far as working with the county on this? Or is this just, as you say, this is just a study at this case, but will it affect what Brighton does going forward as far as, I'm going to say dollars, again, all of these things cost money at some point, right? So how will it
At this
affect it?
stage, no. At some point, we may be asked to partner on some sort of hub or station or some such thing, either maybe even through planning, a planning application. So will it affect us at some point? Likely. Will it affect us today or tomorrow? No.
Okay, so this is just the study to, okay, thank you.
Anything further? Go ahead, Councillor Tadman.
I think we have to remember this is a study and you guys might because you're younger, but I don't think I'm going to live to see it. So we need to watch the dollars, but this is going to take a long time to get going. So if it's your recommendation, Mayor, that we support this,
Yes,
I don't have a problem with that.
thank you. Yeah. Anything further? All in favor? Are there any opposed? Motion's carried. And the motion before me reads, it's moved by Councillor Tadman, second by Councillor Anderson, be it resolved, staff recommendation with respect to items 16.1 and 16.2, it's just 16.2. 16.2 be adopted as printed, but Councillor Bateman, you had a question, I think.
Yeah, nothing really elaborate. The one was asked if you could go back, I'm not sure what department in the county, whether it be Public Works, on some of the county responsible signs on one I noticed on Highway 30 is just after you pass signs, flooring and stuff. I think it's the sign that advertises Campbellford, another one. I think it was brought up actually a couple years ago in council, how it's damaged and split. And I thought they were going to be getting around to fixing it, but it does look quite tattered. If there's whatever department could review the signs within our municipality, that's their responsibility to update. That one there looks like it's ready to fall apart. My other question in your updates, it talks about the 2022 waste calendar for anybody that didn't receive it. Is there any spot within our municipality at either Sharp Street or on Alice Street where those calendars are available for people?
I believe we have some here at
Oh, okay.
35 Alice, and they're at the library as well. Councillor Rowley mentions that. And they'd be available at the landfill site for pickup.
All right, perfect. I know a lot of people rely on those calendars for when they can do their hazardous drop off and any changes and stuff. And I think it has the information on replacing the bins, because every winter I think we all hear those complaints about the shattered bins and stuff, and where do I get them and how do I go about it?
It's usually outrage we hear, but yes,
Yeah.
I agree. So those they are available here in the municipality at the municipal center, library, and I think the front desk. And they would be also available at the landfill site in Brighton.
Is it possible that we can get that out to our citizens through some kind of communication that all those are available within our?
Mr. Hagerman, would you work with the county waste department and communications team to see if we can push something out through social?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That work for you, Councillor Bateman?
No, that'd be excellent. That probably save us all a lot of questions from citizens.
Thank you, Councillor Rowley.
Might I suggest that maybe through the library while they're now open again in Codrington, that we bring some out there? It would keep the people from Codrington coming into town to pick up one of these.
I think that's a good idea. Would you be talking to the CEO of the library about that?
I might talk to the CEO at the CEO at the library and suggest that maybe their staff takes them out there.
Brilliant, thank you. Anything further on the county update? All those in favor? Being none opposed, that motion's carried. Madam Clerk, are you aware of anyone joining us for question period? Ms. Molly, thank you. That takes us to our motion to move into closed session. Once the motion is read, we will end the live YouTube stream for the duration of the meeting, and it's moved by Councillor Tadman, seconded by Councillor Anderson. The council resolve itself into closed session February 7th, 2022 at 7:14 p.m. pursuant to the Ontario Municipal Act 2001 as amended subsection 239(2)B, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including a municipal or local board employee, specifically the appointment of a sustainability committee member. Is there any discussion? All in favor? There being none opposed, that motion is carried. And we'll take a 10-minute recess before proceeding into closed session, or before I read the closed session agenda.